Okay, and we should be live. What is going on, my specialist? SPC here, and welcome back to the Midwest Cantina podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Today, I have the motion capture and voice actor for Jill Valentine from the Resident Evil 3 remake. Please welcome Miss Nicole Tompkins.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Austin.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for being here. This is seriously like a surreal moment right now.
I love that. No, that makes me so excited.
So, I suppose we'll just get right on into the questions. So, what made you actually want to be a motion capture actress?
Yeah, great question. Really interesting. I know many actors and mocap actors and voiceover artists that like grew up and knew super early on, like, I want to make video games. Like, I want to act in video games. Mm-hmm. And I did not know that growing up. I've always been someone who wanted to act and, had decided to make a career out of it. And in some ways, my stories, everyone's story is so unique. And I always tell people, like, there's no one right way. And in some ways, I kind of fell specifically into video games because I had done a little bit of voiceover work and I had been a singer. And quite early on, I had an agent who was representing me for like commercial work be like, you're really good at voiceover. And I was like, oh, great, thanks. And I ended up going in for a 4-line audition for a British young woman in a fantasy video game. And that was all I knew, was that she was British. And I went in there and I put my 4 lines down and I ended up booking Middle-earth: Shadow of War, which is a Lord of the Rings video game by Monolith. And that was my first time on a motion capture set. And I'd gone in for the callback, and one of the silliest stories I ever tell is Troy Baker was in the callback reading because he is the lead of that game, as well as that was his directorial debut as a cinematics director. So he directed that game as well on the mocap stage. But in the callback, like, I didn't know anyone that I was walking into. It was just like, come in, read, here's the sides. I was like, great. I came in and he was reading with me. And I remember walking out of that. At the time, I did not know who Troy Baker was in the gaming world, or who he was to the gaming world. And I walked out of that audition. I was like, dang, that reader is really good. Like, they should use him. And I of course learned very soon, like, oh yeah, because he's like one of the best and one of the most beloved mocap voiceover actors in so many games. And so on that game, like, I really fell in love with the process because I was introduced to motion capture in such a fulfilling and exciting way, because it just was like, it really catered to the actors. They were so committed to the story. It was Troy and Travis Willingham played my dad, and Ike Amati played Baranor. And I just had like these people around me that were so passionate and so good at what they do that I was just like a sponge. I just waited. I was like, this is 1, amazing. 2, didn't know this was an option. And 3, like, I'm in the best possible place that I could be to learn very quickly from some of the best. So that was really just such a blessing. And from there, I was like, ding, ding, like, I want to be back on a motion capture stage. Like, I want to do that again. That is way too much fun. I want back. Let me in. And so I continued to, audition, and especially anytime a video game came around with potential for motion capture, I was like doubled down. I was like emailing my agent, like, how did it go? Did they say anything? Like, I want this one. And then Miss Jill Valentine came along, and I was granted the amazing opportunity to do that. So that's a really long form version of answering your question, but hopefully that answers your question. I kind of decided I wanted to do motion capture after I got to do motion capture for the first time, and was like, oh, yes, please, more of that.
Yeah, it must be like a very surreal thing to do, like, even if you end up playing the game, which I'm assuming you've probably played Resident Evil 3. I feel like that's a dumb question.
I have, yes. I have played Resident Evil 3, obviously my game, the remake.
Yep.
And I'm currently playing on stream Resident Evil remake, so the RE1 remake from 2002, which I'm having a blast. So I was familiar with the franchise before I auditioned for the role. But I hadn't played every single game. Like I knew the stories. I knew who Jill Valentine was. I knew of the movies. I hadn't, I'd seen more of the games just in and out as pieces. And so now really I'm having the fun getting to go through and like play all the way through because they're so iconic. Like, I don't know if you like video games at all, you've seen them somewhere. Like you've seen pieces, you've watched people play, you've seen art. Like, so I was familiar, and now I'm just really enjoying kind of connecting even more with the whole Resident Evil community, especially during this time, and just like taking the time that I take a long time to play games. That's the other thing. Like I don't play them overnight. I take a long time and I like work my way through. And so it's been really fun to like pace myself and actually play through fully some of the most beloved games.
Yeah, Resident Evil 3 was my most hyped game of the year, and I got it day one, and I beat it that night. Like
awesome.
I powered through it. I beat it in like 4 hours.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, that was even with like scavenging for bullets, looking for the herbs and everything like that, and was really exploring everything. Like it was like I love the Resident Evil 2 remake. That was a really, really fun game. But
I just finished it, like literally on a stream with Stephanie Panicello, who plays Claire Redfield. I just finished playing through both Leon and then Claire. And it's such a good game.
it is. It's so action packed. It's scary. Like that first the whole time you're in RPD. That's terrifying.
It's so scary. Yes. My gosh. I mean, people know this iconically. Like anytime there's a liquor, your ears are gonna get blasted out because I'm probably gonna yell about it.
Yeah, it's weird because I found out about you actually through YouTube. I saw your video of, I think you worded like Jill playing as Jill with Jill, or you had Jill in there like 4 or 5 different times. And
yes, like, as always.
I'm like, okay. So I sat down and I watched it, and I'm like, oh. Then I found your Twitch channel, and then I found out you were in movies too, and I'm like, whoa. Like, oh, whoa, okay. And then I've been watching your streams. I caught a little. I caught a little bit of your last one. I went in there and I donated a little bit to your channel.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, anytime. But
I so appreciate that.
Oh yeah, you deserve it. You have such like a positive energy when you're talking to everybody, and you have so much fun. It's hard to find when I watch streamers.
Thank you. I really, really, I mean, I appreciate that because I mean that's kind of why I started doing it. Really, it's just fun, and especially when the pandemic really hit and put us in lockdown, the whole industry shut down. So like my opportunity to act and do the thing that I love the most was kind of stalled in many ways. So I was like, well, I have this time, like. Why don't I'm going to play the games anyway. Why don't I do it with people? And I've found that in some ways so incredibly fulfilling. And some people, are like, oh, is it a different experience to be playing it like publicly for the first time or with other people? And I'm like, I'm sure it is different than if I just played it at home. But at the same time, I can't help just kind of like being how I usually am when I play games, which is just kind of silly. And then getting to bring on the other actors is really like my highlight because I just love talking with people and to people and getting to highlight these other artists' work.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess my next question, what actually made you want to play Jill? Was it just something about the script, or was it something specifically about the game?
I mean, when you get the Jill Valentine breakdown and it says Jill Valentine with character art and her qualities as a STARS member and a professional and just generally a badass, you don't look at a character like that and go, I don't know. You pretty well look at that character and go, well, yes, please. Let me see. Let me see what I can do. And so pretty well the first time I got sides for it, I was just like the Jill Valentine? Okay. Yes. I will bring my best version of what I think that can be with the material that they had. And I mean, that's exactly what I did. And I just clicked with the creative team, I think, super early on and some of the other actors. And, my version, my interpretation of the text on the page, knowing kind of like the history of this iconic video game character, I just brought brought what I could, and they liked it, and here we are. So I definitely, as soon as I saw it, was like, yeah. There was never a doubt in my mind. Then it just became, adding layers, finding how to kind of bring this character to life with what's on the page, and then also what I sort of, feel I want represented if I'm going to get to play her.
Mhm.
And I feel like I really got to do that. And I worked hard too, like just in the audition process to I worked at, some of my gun training and positions, and just, I wanted to show up looking like I knew what I was doing. Because Jill Valentine needs to show up like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, that's for sure, especially with what happens in that game.
Yeah.
Taking on Nemesis, oh man.
Yes.
So it looks like we actually got a question here. Matt Razzler, this is actually my buddy. He said he was going to tune in tonight. As an actress that plays her own games, props, by the way, when you see yourself in a cutscene, do you ever constructively criticize on something you could do better?
That's such a great question. I feel like I would never publicly be like that's something I'm more likely to tell my close friends or my family or boyfriend, just be like, I don't like that.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, in some ways you can't help but watching and being like, ooh, this or ooh, that. But I think there's something really unique about video games specifically that's different than if I'm watching myself in a film or TV. Because when it's film or TV, I'm looking at it, it's me, it's all me, it's there. And then when it's in a video game, I also just know there's so many people involved in bringing this final product to life. We don't know what angle it's going to be from or where the camera is going to be, like you would in film. When I'm shooting a movie, I know where my camera is. I know vaguely what lens they're on and what they're capturing, if it's a wide or a close-up. And we always just shoot for an authentic performance, but just having that in the back of your mind does, you take on some responsibility for knowing, oh, this is really close to my face, don't make it huge or something. In a video game, that's not your job. There's hundreds of other people that are gonna maneuver, add layers and filters and lights and change the direction that you're seeing it from and cut the scene to make it fit, to make this thing flow, so when I watch the game, I don't think I'm as critical, because I'm proud of so many people coming together and just kind of seeing that final product. So the most thing I could be critical of really is just being like, oh, I didn't feel like that moment was fully captured based on what I felt on the stage, or something like that. But even those are pretty slim, because I find it best to just be proud and stoked and keep moving forward, because that's what makes us better. We can look at stuff that we don't like, but you don't ever dwell on that. You just look and go, okay, cool, mental note for next time. I didn't have very many of those moments for Resident Evil 3, because the whole experience was just such a dream. So when I watch it, when I look at it, really, I'm not looking at oh, myself, my performance, me. I'm really just looking at oh my God, I remember when we shot that. I think of Jeff, I think of Neil, these actors that I worked with, Steve, our director, that sushi restaurant we went to in Tokyo after we shot this scene, because it was the final scene of the day. That's really where my mind goes, I think, when I watch some of the in-game stuff. Okay, that was a long answer.
And then on the flip side, do you ever see a cutscene and say, yeah, I nailed that perfectly?
Every cutscene ever.
Like that confidence. So what was the hardest part about making the Resident Evil 3 remake?
Yeah, I've gotten this question before, and people often ask, what's the most challenging aspect? And I think Jeff Shine has had one of the most eloquent responses to this question that I've ever heard, which was along the lines of when you're doing something that you love and you're so supported by other people in doing that thing, what might be considered challenging doesn't feel hard. It just becomes easy. It becomes relaxed and wonderful and focused in some ways. So, there's plenty of challenging aspects. There's physical demands. There's, just, I don't know, even traveling abroad is one of the coolest parts of having gotten to shoot this in some ways. And you end up working the day after you get there. So like you'll be super jet lagged. So just like showing up on a like 17-hour time difference and going to work, like that's challenging, but it's just not in comparison to like the big picture. You don't think like, oh, this is hard. You just go, this is amazing. I feel kind of slap happy on this time change, but I sure am here. So I don't often think like, oh, challenging. You know, I think being an actor in general, like our job oftentimes is to audition. And when we get to actually do the work, you know, that's the icing on the cake. So as far as challenging, really the challenging doesn't come from getting to do the role. The challenging comes from all of the no's that you got before you got the yes to get to do that role. So the amount of parts and roles that I didn't get, like that's the challenging part, is picking yourself back up and knowing like, I did great. I'm proud of that. On to the next, onward. And that's the kind of mindset you got to do and you got to be if you're an artist, while always, you know, being honest with yourself and growing and learning from mistakes and past feedback.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the funnest part about making the RE3 remake?
All of it.
All of it.
Jeez. Well, I love being on the mocap stage. So that in general is just like such a delight. Because there's just so much creativity. You have like nothing there to act against. It's all just like empty rooms with tons of cameras and little fake props that are covered in dots. So it's just like a lot of make-believe. And there's some BTS stuff of like Neil and I, and he did the performance capture for Nemesis as well as Nicolai. And when he's doing his like Nemesis stuff, like without the music, without the giant animations and stuff, like it's really funny. It's super funny to watch people on a mocap stage. Like we take ourselves so seriously in the final product. You know, it totally works and makes sense and is serious. When you're actually doing it, like it's silent, someone calls action and you're all just acting really serious. Not quite like that, but that's sort of the feeling. And I find that to be really, really fun. And then of course, like RE3 took me to Tokyo for the first time, took me to Japan for the first time. And I've decided it's one of my favorite places I've ever been. So just the opportunity, I think, to travel and to experience that beautiful culture firsthand. I'm also a huge sushi lover and ramen lover. So I just was like in the right place.
Man, I've never been to Tokyo. My brother, he used to be in the Marine Corps and he used to be stationed in Japan. And he used to tell me so many fun stories and just so jealous of him.
When you get the opportunity, definitely take it, go. And if you don't see the opportunity, just show up. Make the opportunity. I think I would tell anyone, especially people from America or this far, you know, kind of west, like go see, go experience. It's kind of like a different world, but not at the same time. And I think that's really beautiful. You just learn to meet new people. And I've said this before, like the RE3 set was not that many English speakers. Most everyone there and the crew and everything else speaks completely just in Japanese. And so we have translators. So like the joy of really feeling like you can communicate super efficiently with people that don't even speak your language because you're all there for like a shared purpose. It feels wonderful. It's so inspiring and exciting because you're able to communicate with people that are saying things that you don't know at all what they're saying, but you completely understand what they're talking about.
So did you get to work with people who worked on like Resident Evil 7 or even Resident Evil 2?
I'm sure that I did. I know for a fact when you're like working on a game in general, like you don't often spend too much time talking about other games just because there's so many like NDAs and things like that everyone just kind of like keeps their mouth quiet on. But we did work with some people that were very in the know on RE2 because you also have just like Capcom execs and stuff that are decision makers that are seeing everything that's happening. So we got shown footage of RE2, especially in scenes like when we go to Kendo's gun shop and, you know, looking at how what's going to happen, what happens before you get there, because those stories start to intertwine, so that we have context and stuff like that. So definitely there was absolutely people that are part of the other games.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7, that's my favorite Resident Evil game.
You love it?
Oh, I've played through that game so many times I could probably play with my eyes closed.
That's amazing. Are you so excited for Village?
Oh, that's an understatement, but yeah.
Amazing. That's so cool. That's so cool. I'm excited as well. I have not played through RE7, but I might eventually, especially if I want to play Village and everyone's going to ask me like, have you played Village yet? I'm like, I gotta, yeah. So I might have to get on that.
Well, I will tell you, I'm sure people are going to hark on you, but they'll probably ask you to play it in VR. Yeah, it's a whole other experience playing that game in VR. Like, oh,
it just sounds so terrifying.
It was, especially like the first maybe 3 hours of the game, walking around the big old house.
No, I've seen so much footage from that game that I'm always just like, no. Mm-mm.
Oh, it as a game whole, I love it. It's so good. Like, oh, but yeah, it's terrifying.
Good old Ethan.
Oh yeah. I'm more curious to see what's going on in this new game because like I have so many questions and I need them answered.
I'm sure there seems to be a lot of excited people on the internet. So
I'm just more excited to fight werewolves.
Do it.
Yeah, it's better than fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. Zombies are cool, but like werewolves, come on. How often?
Werewolves?
How often can you say, "Hey, I fought a werewolf in a video game"?
Yeah, it was chill.
It was all right. It was okay.
No biggie.
Yeah, just
I fight werewolves in my sleep.
Exactly. And I guess for our last question, do you have any future projects you eventually want to work on? Like, is there like a movie you want to be a part of, or like another kind of video game?
Yes, so many. I've said this before. I would love to do. I have so many interests, which sometimes makes this question difficult. But I really love fantasy environments. I love heightened reality. I love playing around in worlds that reflect ours but are slightly different because it gives you the opportunity to kind of explore how people exist in that world. And in some ways, that's what many video games do, including Resident Evil 3, right? It's like our world, but not. And that's it's just such a fun playground. So I would love to do like a fantasy maybe TV series. I think that'd be super awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. And a period piece, historical fiction. I love action adventures. I loved the first Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm excited for the second one. Just like that colorful world is so beautiful. Kind of like post-apocalyptic futures really interest me. So as far as like that, like I think there's so many projects that I don't know about yet that I will be very, very excited to be a part of. And then, big franchises that I love is like Lord of the Rings, which I got to do a Lord of the Rings game, which is super cool. I'm really excited to see the Amazon series that they're shooting right now. Is it Amazon? Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, yep, Amazon.
Yep. So I can't wait to see that. I already know in advance. Like I'd love to do something like that. And then everyone always asks me like, would you do Jill again? And the answer is 100% yes. When and if an opportunity comes to do Jill again, I would take it. Whether that's in a game or animated series or anything in between. I'm excited for all the Resident Evil stuff kind of coming out, and I'll definitely. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I'm ready for the Netflix show, and I'm definitely ready for the remake of the movie.
Yeah, the movies, the little photos that have leaked so far seem pretty cool.
I'm also hoping for a game where like Jill meets up with Leon and Claire and Sherry, and you guys just all fight zombies together.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, it fits perfectly. Like just even with you playing with all the guys, like.
I know we all know each other now. Capcom, are you listening?
I will start a petition for this. I'm ready for this now.
Hey, do it on the internet. We're ready.
That's right. So I actually think that's pretty much it for my questions. So
awesome.
I want to thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for being on here. This, like I said, this is a very surreal moment. Like I can't even believe it's happening right now.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much for being such a dedicated fan and a podcaster and just interested in general. Do you have like your top 5 favorite video games?
I do. Number 1 is Marvel Spider-Man, the game from 2 years ago now, I believe it is.
Yes, I'm literally playing that right now on my own time.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
It
It's
gets
so much fun.
how far are you?
I'm not that far in. I'm only like maybe like 2 missions in.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna. I'll just tell you now, you might cry by the end. It's
Oh,
so
I can't
good.
wait. I can't wait. And then I love now, like, Miles Morales comes with an updated version of that game for the PS5.
Yep.
I don't have one yet, but my boyfriend got a PS5 and he's playing it now, and I'm like, it looks so good.
Oh man, I'd say number 2 is Star Wars Battlefront 2 from like 2005.
Nice.
3, Resident Evil 7.
Awesome.
The game is amazing.
Love it.
4. Oh boy, this is a hard question. Wow, I didn't think I was gonna get put on the spot for this.
You're
one.
getting questioned.
I am. Man, say 4 is probably the original Donkey Kong Country from Super Nintendo. The game is, dude. That opening song is just, it hooks you every time.
Just got you for life.
And 5, I'd probably say Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Such a good game. I know several of the people that worked on that game, and actually, one of my favorite. I'll just little tidbit moment. I did some mocap work on the same stage where Fallen Order was done, and they still had lightsabers from their mocap work on the stage, and I was like, I'm gonna need to mess with that for a minute. And they were like, sure, fine, go ahead. And I got to just wander around for a second with like the actual mocap lightsabers with all the dots on them. And I was just like, I'm a Jedi.
I'm so jealous.
Yes. So that's my one claim to like Star Wars universe. I held a lightsaber used in the motion capture for Fallen Order. And I was very serious when I did it.
Yeah, if you can't tell, I love Star Wars. It's like part of my life. I love it so much.
It's good choice.
Thank you very much.
Good choice. Awesome. Well, Austin, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and thanks for those that have watched and are interested. As I always say, stay well, be well, and so much love.
All right. Well, thanks guys for watching. I linked both Nicole's YouTube and Twitch down in the description below, so make sure you guys head on over, check out her channel.
Thanks. Come say hey. Come hang out. We're a nice bunch.
And with that being said, guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.
Austin, you want stars? Because I'll give you stars.
Oh my gosh.